Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar on modern financial management for Wendy's franchises. My name is Andrew Lester. I am the founder and CEO of Tablespoon, and I'll be your host today. I am a CPA and have about 20 years of experience in public accounting and accounting software applications, working primarily with clients in the restaurant industry. And just a brief introduction to Tablespoon and who we are as an organization. We specialize in helping restaurant groups transform their accounting and financial management through a combination of top shelf technology and our team's expertise in the unique needs of the restaurant industry. We are a Sage business partner and have over a decade of experience working with and implementing Sage Intacct, and we are the leading Sage Intacct reseller specializing in the restaurant and hospitality industry. Now, when we first meet with a prospective client, we dive into all of their different financial processes to see where they are having the biggest challenges and where Sage Intacct can help. And the restaurant groups we speak with are often facing very similar challenges. I wonder if any of these might resonate with you. Lack of visibility and insights. So operators and leadership are not able to access the data and reporting they need to make timely and strategic decisions. Outdated software and disconnected systems. That continued reliance on old on-premise software that is long past its shelf life, doesn't integrate with other business systems, which leads to manual and inefficient processes. So day-to-day accounting tasks like paying vendors, auditing cash and sales, and period end reporting are very time-consuming and manual. Folks want these to be automated. And then, of course, restaurant groups are growing, and each new restaurant that opens means more accounting work and more pain from dealing with the outdated systems and inefficient processes. Closing the books takes longer and longer, and the accounting team is working nights and weekends just to keep up. Or perhaps you work with an outsourced provider who's facing similar challenges and struggling to meet deadlines because their systems are not automated. So how does Tablespoon help our clients overcome these challenges? Well, simply put, we help restaurant groups just like you level up from basic bookkeeping and ancient, outdated systems to transform into future-ready restaurant finance. We show companies how to take advantage of a solution that shows real value with outcomes that are a result of having automated processes with clear and measurable results like these. A franchisee that cut the time to close their books by 50%. They are able to create custom reports, providing a deeper level of insight 500% faster than before. And with this time savings, they were able to open 4 new stores and expand into a different brand without adding headcount in accounting. Another franchisee was able to eliminate much of their manual data manipulation and save over 36 hours per month across reconciliations, AP, and accounting processes. And finally, a franchisee was able to streamline their accounting workflows, go paperless, and cut their close time by over 25%. And by giving their operators access to real-time financial dashboards, they were able to improve store profitability and scale over 134%, also without adding any staff in the accounting department. Now, what do all of these franchisees have in common? Each of these companies I mentioned saw these impressive results after implementing Sage Intacct. Sage Intacct is our modern native cloud accounting solution with open APIs to help you maximize productivity by connecting with other best-in-class systems for restaurant management, inventory, payroll, and more. Sage Intacct provides intuitive AI-powered core accounting with a dimensional general ledger, continuous consolidation and drill down across multiple entities, easy-to-use reporting and dashboards, workflow automation, and the ability to easily manage complex entity structures. Now, as I mentioned, Sage Intacct is a native cloud solution. And unlike other accounting software, Intacct has been cloud-based since its original launch over 20 years ago. Being in the cloud means that anyone in the organization can have access to the information they need when they need it with only a web browser and an internet connection. So a district manager can review her P&Ls from the field, while the CFO is using Sage Intacct's dynamic financial dashboards for a board presentation. At the core of Sage Intacct is a powerful, flexible general ledger, supercharged with AI to help automate accounting transactions. Sage Intacct offers all of the core features you need to manage your finances, including accounts payable, cash management, sophisticated reporting capabilities, and a fresh and modern user interface, while providing big time savings and a product that accountants love to use. But we don't stop at core financials. With additional modules available for more complex business requirements, native multi-entity capabilities that easily support multiple brands, any non-restaurant businesses like real estate companies, holding companies, or companies you might own in altogether different industries. Sage Intacct is a powerful, best-in-class cloud platform that powers your business today and into the future. Now, Sage Intacct has over 400 marketplace partners who offer rigorously tested and certified connectors to their solutions. These direct connections eliminate manual data entry and the need to rely on Excel for importing and exporting the data that needs to move between your systems. And among the marketplace partners are industry-leading vendors that offer robust solutions in areas like payroll and expense management. There are also a number of restaurant industry-specific solutions, and here at Tablespoon, we're proud to work closely with key partners to the Wendy system, such as One Data Source and Rosnet. But ultimately, with Sage Intacct, you have the flexibility to choose the best solution for each area of your business. You can easily work with the operations systems that you currently rely on to run your restaurants, or you can plug and play different solutions as needed without disrupting your accounting system or your financials. Now, some software vendors have a very different philosophy and instead offer this vision of an all-in-one restaurant accounting suite where the same vendor provides everything you might ever need for accounting and operations in one solution. But the problem with the suite is that you're locked into one vendor for your entire back office tech stack, and you're completely dependent on that vendor to be able to meet all of your needs, not just today, but next year and beyond. What if that vendor doesn't have the best solution for a certain aspect of your business, like inventory or COGS? Or what if your needs change and the suite that might have been great in the beginning no longer works as you need it to? And can one vendor even provide the best possible solution in every area of your back office? Ultimately, I believe that the future of business software is open APIs, flexibility, and not being locked into one vendor. So here at Tablespoon, we help our clients deploy that best-in-class suite that brings together the best systems and solutions for the Wendy system and delivers real value. So why is Tablespoon and Sage Intacct the right partner for you? Well, it's simple. We are obsessed with customer satisfaction and ensuring your success. And one way we do this is by offering the best technology solutions available, matched with Tablespoon's restaurant industry experience and high quality of service. But you don't have to take my word for it. Year after year, Sage Intacct has been ranked as a leader in customer satisfaction across both TrustRadius and G2 Crowd, and continues to win awards from industry analysts for product vision and capabilities. Sage Intacct is also the only accounting software that is endorsed by the AICPA. And that's important because there are over 600,000 members of the AICPA. They've used every accounting system out there, but Sage Intacct is the only product they've ever endorsed. And finally, here at Tablespoon, we share the same values as our friends at Sage around doing right by customers, listening to your needs, and being a good company to do business with. We aren't going to try and sell you something you don't need just because it's on the price list and we don't engage in high-pressure sales tactics. At the end of the day, we are only successful if our customers are successful. So we are laser focused on helping you select the most appropriate vendor and solution for you and ensuring you receive the most value from your relationship with us, both now and into the future. So with that, let's dive into the system and take a look at Sage Intacct. And we're going to look at three main areas today. First, how Sage Intacct delivers real-time visibility through dashboards and robust reporting. How workflows and automations in Sage Intacct make your finance team more productive. And finally, how you gain the flexibility to manage the structure and growth plans of your restaurant group with Sage Intacct. All right. So as I mentioned, the first topic we're going to go through here today in Sage Intacct is the reporting and dashboard features of the system and how Sage Intacct can improve visibility and better connect operations, accounting, and leadership. And so one way that we do that is through these dashboards in Sage Intacct. And I've got up here on the screen our first dashboard example, and this is a store level dashboard reporting results for a single restaurant location. And I'm going to walk you through some aspects of this dashboard that you're looking at. Then we'll move on to a few other dashboards and wrap up with how this relates to reporting. And one thing I want to point out right off the bat here is that this dashboard is not a snapshot from previously exported data. So unlike other dashboards or visualization tools where they're exporting data to build out a dashboard and you're looking at information, that maybe is from last week or last month, this dashboard here shows live up to the minute data. And so if we're going to have changes such as an added invoice, within purchasing for your food cost or a change to sales, those changes would be reflected right here in the metrics that we're looking at. Now, these items across the top are called performance cards, and they're kind of a scorecard, which lets you see right up front what's going on with this store. So for instance, you can see store sales information compared against either past performance or budget. You can analyze your cost of goods sold and labor. You can include data from your POS and other operational metrics to really understand how the store is performing. This operational data is tracked in what Sage Intacct calls statistical accounts and statistical journal entries. And you can even set targets or budget goals for this operational data, like this quality score here, which has a target or a budget, if you will, of an 85 that this store is expected to meet. And you can see that by earning a 90 on their quality score, this store is performing well in this aspect. And so all of these metrics here can be set up to compare against budget, prior period, prior year, really however you want to set this up. These are all very easy to configure and change just through a few clicks in the user interface. So for example, if I want to change my comparison for sales from prior year to budget, I click on this little gear icon here, and I've got my settings for this performance card. And over here under comparison, I can change from period to budget. And I can also change, if I want to, these little icons or visualizations, arrows, the smiley face, flags, etc. And just by making that simple click, my comparison will change. I can also drag and drop these performance cards or just easily move them around. It's very flexible, very intuitive. And again, these scorecards can include financial information from your P&Ls or balance sheets, as well as operational data from your POS system and other sources. Below these performance cards, I've got a variety of other components which create visibility into this store's performance. So I've got a couple of charts here that are comparing. The first chart is comparing food cost percentage against budget, looking back over the last 6 or 7 periods or so. And then below that, I've got a similar concept, but it's a stacked bar chart here for prime costs. Now, when I hover, as you can see, when I hover my mouse over this chart in the bottom right corner, there's a box that says Show Data. So when I click on that box, I can see the underlying data just with one click that is included in this chart. Toggle back and forth to the graph. I can also edit this chart right from this dashboard just by clicking on this little pencil. So clicking the pencil takes me into the settings for this graph. If I wanted to, I could change the type of graph that it is, whether it's a bar chart, a line chart, et cetera. In this case, I'm going to change this from a 6-period trend. Let's say, I'd like to go back a little further and see the last 9 periods. So with just a couple clicks and a quick refresh, that graph will update. And of course, just like the performance cards, these charts and graphs can be rearranged very intuitively just by clicking and dragging through the dashboard. Now, moving down from the charts, we get into our P&L, our store level P&L. So again, this dashboard is intended to communicate period end results for a specific restaurant location. So we've got really our lowest, kind of our lowest level of detail in your organization, what's happening inside your stores. And this particular P&L is just one example of how we can create and format your P&Ls for you. We have extensive experience creating these kinds of reports in Sage Intacct, both in the financial report writer and of course in all of the dashboards as well. So this is a format that has been very popular with the other Wendy's groups that we've worked with, where we've got our accounts on the left and our current period actual results compared against budget, compared against same period of last year, and then the same on a year-to-date basis. But if in your organization, your team is used to seeing, say, the accounts in the middle of the report instead of on the left, that's no problem. If you prefer to have variance columns, so actual versus budget with an actual column showing the variance, no problem. The reporting is very, very flexible, and I'll show you an example here in just a minute. So as I look at this P&L, I want to point out a couple of really important features. So first of all, any number that is in blue, I can actually drill down into. So as I'm scanning through this P&L, and let's say I'm your controller, and I'm taking a look at this store's P&L. It's end of period close, getting ready to issue our prelims out to the field. And so I'm just doing a quick review here and scanning down. And as I move my mouse, you can see that the rows highlight, makes it very easy to review very quickly. And I can, really drill down into my COGS, into my payroll costs, getting into our operating expenses. And I'm going to get down into this R&M section. And I've got a question because I see this expense here for R&M signage, and I don't really remember what that might be. So by clicking into the number here, I can actually drill down from this dashboard into the details. And here I can see the details of what makes up this expense for this store for this period. And in this case, I can see here, this looks like a bill for some sort of signage. And I'd like to know more. So I can then drill down again by clicking on the number here, further into the detail and see the actual AP bill record in Sage Intacct. So what I'm looking at here is now the actual AP bill, the transaction that's entered through your AP workflow. And from this screen, I can see all sorts of key information about this bill, the date, the amount, the payment status. If I needed to, I could actually drill down further by clicking on the payment method here to actually see details of that payment. And again, I've got key information about my vendor. I've also got this attachment field. So in Sage Intacct, you can attach copies of invoices, of supporting information, anything that you need to, you can attach directly to your transactions. So in this case, we're looking at an AP bill with this attachment here. And by clicking on this little paperclip, I can pull up a copy of this bill and actually look at that source image right inside without leaving Sage Intacct, without even leaving the screen, just with one click. And so by looking at this bill, at this sample invoice, I'm able to determine, for example, that maybe I don't agree with how this particular expense was coded, and maybe I'd like to change it. So because I'm the controller, I have the user permissions to be able to make adjustments to the financials. And so on the fly, I can click and reclassify this expense. And let's say, what, I think this should be on the balance sheet. We have new signage here. So I can change the account number. I can change my store number if that was incorrect. And I can go ahead and post this. And so then when I go back to my dashboard, I'm going to just do a quick refresh on this report. And if I scroll back down to my R&M, you will see that that expense has now been moved off. And so behind the scenes, Sage Intacct has an audit trail that's tracking everything that every user is doing in the system and all the changes that are being made. So you still have that granularity to be able to track for your auditors the transactions that are being entered and edited through the system. But what I've just shown you is how, with the drill down capability, I'm able to quickly understand the details of the numbers. I'm able to make changes if I need to, and I'm doing this in a very, very efficient way without leaving this dashboard or even having to open up a new window and run additional reports. And by the way, your operators can have this same drill down benefit. So while you probably wouldn't want your operators editing your accounting system, you can give a view-only access into a dashboard like this to extend this same powerful drill down out to the field. And this is how we really improve visibility, because by bringing accounting and operations into the same system through this very rich dashboard environment that's still very easy to use, all of a sudden now everybody's working in the same system with the same information, and we're able to really understand what's happening inside the stores. Now, I'd like to take us to an example of another dashboard, kind of staying on this theme with how Sage Intacct can really help your operations teams. Before I do that, let me just show you the dashboards menu. And this menu shows all of the different dashboards by the various different focus areas: accounting, operations, ownership. And you can create unlimited dashboards for different users based on the information that is most important to them. You can also control or restrict who can access specific dashboards or even certain information on the dashboards. For example, a district manager may only have access to the district dashboard for just the stores that she is responsible for. But the CFO may have access to all of these different dashboards here. So let's take a look at what a district manager might see in Sage Intacct. We'll start here with this district dashboard. And so this is an example of what a dashboard could look like for one of your district managers. And in this example, this district manager is responsible for 3 stores, and the district is noted here up at the top. So we've got a filter for our date and a filter for our district. And of course, across the top, we have these same performance cards or scorecards. So this gives this district manager a very quick and visual view into the performance of her district. And as we go down here, the first report that I have available is a side-by-side P&L. I'm going to expand this report out since it kind of has a number of columns here going left to right. By clicking on this little magnifying glass, I can expand this report out and open up a new browser tab. And what I'm able to do here is take a look at how my stores are performing in my district compared to one another. So this is a layout that you might be familiar with. It's very common with a lot of the groups that we work with. So what this report is doing is it's expanding our totals for this district by the dimension in Sage Intacct of the store itself or that restaurant location. And so as you can see, each store is a column where we have the actual results and the percentages, which add up into a total. And this report is laid out to have current period and then the same for year to date, all in a very, very clean, nice layout. And this provides a wealth of useful information for your district manager. So by scrolling down and looking at results, I can very easily understand and drill into, okay, why is store 2 running a 33% food cost? Store 1 is almost 40. Something has to be amiss here. So I can drill down into these different categories and really look at the purchasing and the spend that's happening in my stores. I can analyze labor. I can analyze my operating expenses. Same idea as I showed you with the store dashboard in terms of being able to look at the drill down and really understand what's behind these numbers. And this particular P&L, as I go all the way down here to the very, very bottom, it stops at a store level profit or store level EBITDA line. And so with Sage Intacct, we can customize all of your reporting to give the field the P&L formatting that they are used to, that they're getting today, or that you want them to be able to get in the format that you need. So, and different groups will have different requirements, but the flexibility of Sage Intacct to be able to define or conform to how you define, say, restaurant level profit or controllable income, store level net income, whatever that metric might be, is how this reporting would look for you. Now, I want to also highlight that this district manager who I've given access into Sage Intacct, she's able to log right into the system and land on this dashboard. So this is very easy for people to use and to interact with. We don't have to teach our team, yet another piece of software. We don't have to teach them how to run reports, or, it's really putting this information at their fingertips. And of course, this is just one example. So this is a period end dashboard, but we've had a tremendous success designing these dashboards for our clients around more of that daily and weekly view, looking at our results more on a flash basis and really seeing what's happening during the period. So as operators, we can make faster and better decisions. And that's really important, right? Because the ability to make those fast decisions is what ultimately drives your profitability, right? And when the P&Ls show up, weeks or months after period end, oftentimes in big complicated spreadsheets, it's very, very hard for operations to really get much value out of that information. A couple of other great examples with the dashboards here, staying with our focus on operations. So let's move up from the district to, say, your director of operations, and being able to take a look across all of your stores and look at some really important information. So we've got what we call a KPI dashboard that is basically just aggregating all of the performance for all of your stores into one easy to use dashboard. Again, a lot of these metrics are fairly straightforward, and you will have seen before. We have these same kinds of graphs, the same metrics across the top as we had on our district dashboard. But now we've added something that I think is really cool, which are these ranking reports. And so this is, again, just one example of the flexibility within Sage Intacct's reporting and dashboards, where we can actually rank our stores. And there's different ways to do this, right? But one way we have definitely seen is ranking our stores according to their typical sales performance, which gives you a really nice way to compare the performance of stores that do similar sales. So you might have, for example, stores that are, your lower performing stores from a sales perspective, might run a little higher in labor. That might be expected. So comparing your lowest sales performing score to your store to your highest will not necessarily yield the same insights. But we give you this really nice and very visual way to look at how your stores perform. We have conditional highlighting. Um, red is green is good, red is bad, and we've got some different data points here. So our stores are in rows. We have our store numbers ranked by sales volume, and then we can see some really important data here. We've got our sales, our weekly average sales for the period. We have our food cost, payroll cost, and our cash over short. And of course, these could be whatever metrics you define as are important for your team. These are just examples. So actual results, and then this version here on the right is our budget variance. So how are we performing relative to, in actual terms, and then how are we performing relative to our goals and our targets? So this is very useful information for director of operations, for district managers to be able to really look at and understand and compare store performance. And then finally, we have a sales analysis dashboard. And this is a really good example of how Sage Intacct can use your point of sale data, your operational data, to really help drive more insights. So we have these scorecards here across the top, but we've got some different metrics displayed. So being able to really drill into your sales and really start to analyze, for example, your percentage of sales that comes from drive-through versus dining room. Looking at third-party delivery, a huge area of focus in terms of analyzing results and profitability. So what is the sales volume and the average check performance across your different ordering channels, whether it's for the entire store here with this average net check. And this is an example of how in Sage Intacct we can use calculations in our reporting and our dashboards to basically be able to divide sales information into transaction counts and start to drive some of these calculations and some of these metrics. And again, these are customizable and can work with the data that is specific to your business, specific to Wendy's system, such as the Wen Digital, ordering, Uber Eats, DoorDash, et cetera. So very, very flexible and powerful in terms from a reporting and analytics perspective. And we've got some additional graphs, down here looking at drilling into, say, manager and employee meals, third-party delivery performance, and analysis of fees. So these are just a few examples of the kinds of dashboards that you can have in Sage Intacct, and some of the benefits in terms of the visibility that that this brings across your organization. And I want to flip over to talk about really where all of this is coming from, right? And so a lot of these reports, these graphs, these P&Ls, these different reports that I've shown you, these all live here in the report center. And this is where Sage Intacct keeps all reports. And I've got this set to show us all reports for all applications. But I can change this if I want to narrow the list of reports, for example, to these different applications here. And if you'll notice, next to each report, there's a little star icon. So by clicking the star, I can make these specific reports my favorites. After I save a report, I can also memorize the report to run and be delivered with certain parameters preset. I can also set a schedule for the report to run and be sent by email to different stakeholders or managers, or delivered out to a Google Drive or SharePoint folder. And I can do this with any of my reports, and I can also create report groups to organize individual reports into a batch and automate the distribution of period end P&Ls and other reports that go out to the field. And I think this is very important because one of the pain points that we often hear from companies we speak with is the time that's involved at period end with issuing reporting, particularly if we're on one of those outdated systems that I mentioned, being able to really automate the distribution of that reports puts time back into your team, right? And that time into your accounting team, I should say. And that time, of course, can then be um, repurposed to more value-added activities in areas that are more beneficial for your business than just point and click and run report and save and the tedium that can go into manually compiling big reporting workbooks. So what I have shown you here so far is, again, some examples of how the dashboards and the reporting in Sage Intacct can provide greater visibility, can help connect operations and accounting, giving leadership and owners that view not only at the individual store level, but rolling up to the district level through your operations alignments all the way up to your entire company. Okay, next, we're going to talk about some of those automations and efficiencies, and these are these features that really help your accounting team work smarter, not harder, get more done with the time that they have available, and ultimately help you all be able to grow your businesses. So I'm going to share just a couple of examples of how the user interface in Sage Intacct and the ease of use can help in this area. The first area I'll talk about is with accounts payable. And I've flipped over into a different demo environment here to be able to show you some really cool automation features that we now have in the product. And so ultimately in Sage Intacct, there's multiple different ways to get accounts payable data into the system. You can manually enter bills, you can import bills very easily from a Excel or CSV file. And then we also have our AP automation option. And so how that works here is built right into Sage Intacct. Your vendors can either email their invoices directly to a custom email address that is set up just for your company. And when those invoices come in, they will be processed by the automation and will appear in a list that will look something like this. We can also upload bills directly from our computer if we don't want to email, and I'll show you an example of how that works here as well. So I've got an example invoice from a plumbing vendor. It looks something like this, just a very straightforward invoice here. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop this file in, and you can upload invoices, one at a time like this, or a single file with, a whole bunch of invoices in it. Attach that file, create bills. And so Sage Intacct is going to go to work in the background using AI technology and machine learning to analyze that invoice and automatically suggest the coding for us, looking at the vendor, the invoice date, the invoice amount. And when that bill finishes processing, it's going to look just like this. So I can look over here at my attachment, click the paperclip, and actually preview the work that the AI did for us here. And as you can see, the system has identified the correct vendor. The coding we have correct as a repair and maintenance invoice here, the amount, invoice date, all of this. And I can do this review without leaving the screen here. So assuming this looks good, I just click post and the transaction will save. So when bills come into Sage Intacct through the AP automation, they're saved in a draft state. And so that gives your team the ability to review those invoices as they come in, but saves you all the time of having to manually code and enter these invoices. And what's really, really nice about how Sage Intacct deployed this automation is it really can be used alongside other AP systems that you either may use today. So restaurant-specific AP automation from our friends at OnePay, for example, or PlateIQ or Craftable, Factura. There are a number of very, very good AP automation systems, and perhaps you're using one of those today. Well, with Sage Intacct's Open API, you can connect in to those AP automation systems, and through that API, the um, the AP bill will be sent automatically into Sage Intacct with all of the coding already applied. So tremendous flexibility in terms of how you can get bills into the system. You can continue to use an AP automation solution that you may have today. You can use the Sage Intacct AP automation. And of course, we support all the standard methods of managing your payables, including importing bills and manual entry as needed. The next area I'm going to go to is cash management and bank reconciliations. Now, bank reconciliations, of course, are a real struggle and a real pain point for many, many groups. The more stores you have, the more deposit activity, the more sales data you're managing, and that can really, really pile up and start to make your bank recs very difficult. We've got some great automation capabilities to help really streamline that reconciliation process. And so how we go about doing that is we bring your bank transaction data into Sage Intacct alongside your general ledger or your accounting data. And we do that either through direct bank feeds and banking integration, or through the ability to import a file of your bank data here. And once we have that bank activity here in the system, and we have our book activity, we then are able to leverage very powerful automation using rules that Intacct will analyze this bank activity as it comes in and suggest matches. So if a deposit amount matches by amount and day, the system will automatically clear that activity for you. AP checks that clear based on check number and amount, these sorts of things. But we don't stop at just matching. We also have rules that will help create transactions. So automating the entry of a lot of these day-to-day transactions that come off your bank activity, things like your bank fees or utility payments, or maybe even your royalty fee debits that come from corporate. These are all examples of transactions that can be mostly automated in terms of the entry. And what that does is it leaves your team with only really having to deal with the exceptions. So being able to look at just those deposits that might not have matched exactly. And chances are you're probably already doing this cash audit every day, or at least every week, looking at that daily sales, daily cash activity. But you may well be doing this outside of your accounting system, maybe in a spreadsheet or maybe in some other software. And so with Sage Intacct, you can move that workflow that you're already doing into the accounting system and actually streamline your bank reconciliation while you do it. If I have a transaction that I need to adjust, I can click into it here to drill down. I'm looking at my daily sales entry now. I can very easily just edit this entry. And of course, this is assuming I have the user permissions to do this. And let's say, we cleared for 10 cents off. So I can just add a deposit variance line into my entry, however you decide to do this. But the point is, I can just quickly drill down, refresh, and make adjustments as I need to so that I can keep moving in my bank rec. And so what Sage Intacct enables your team to do with this automation and with these powerful APIs, by integrating your point of sale data, having your store sales populating into your accounting software on a daily basis, having your bank activity integrating into Sage Intacct, bringing that all of those deposits in every day. Your team that's already doing that cash analysis for you and that cash audit can save tremendous amounts of time by automating a lot of that bank reconciliation, and then being able to make the adjustments as they happen so that you always have that real-time view into what's happening with cash. And so I can take that even a level further, and we can move all of this activity now to a dashboard. So because we have our sales in, almost in real time coming in every day, we have our deposits, we can create a dashboard that looks like this, where we can start to see, what sort of activity is happening with our voids, our refunds, these common areas where we want to be looking for, potential issues of theft or what have you. We can track our cash over short by day. So we have on this report here a daily cash over short for the last 14 days here, right? And I can see by store, because I have my stores in rows, by day, everyone's over short. So when we're doing our bank reconciliations once a month and we're looking at our sales, after the period ends, we lose that opportunity to be able to troubleshoot and identify all of these little boxes in red here, right? That I'm sure as operators, you want to get to the bottom of and understand the root cause of these shortages. We have our daily deposits coming in. So we have that snapshot view of that expected cash. So this is a very, very powerful automation that both saves your teams a lot of time in their day-to-day work, but then also drives a lot of benefits for you in leading your company and working with your teams on the operations side as well. The next area I'm going to talk about is flexibility. And one area of flexibility deals with managing multiple entities under one login. And currently I'm on the top level, as noted in the header. And from here, we're able to see consolidated metrics from across the whole organization. But what if I wanted to work on just a single entity? From the header, where it says top level, I can click here to see a list of all of my entities. And you'll see that multiple entities, including my restaurant operating entity, my management company, and my real estate holding company all roll up into this top level. When I select one of these entities, the system opens up a new tab for me. I slide into this entity and start working in just a single entity. And when I'm working in this entity, I still have all of the same accounting capabilities, the same general ledger, the same dashboards and reports, but I won't be able to see or access any of the other entities' information. And going back to this top level, you'll notice it didn't close. And you'll notice that when I dropped down into one of my entities here, I'm not being prompted to log out or log in. I can have multiple browser tabs open across different companies, across the same company, very flexible. Now I'd like to talk about a few different ways that we can consolidate or roll up these multiple entities. And one way, a very simple way, is to have all of these entities share a common chart of accounts, where you manage the chart of accounts from the top level. And with this method, you get continuous consolidation, and the system can roll up in real time. Certain GL metrics still rely on a period close, but you're seeing transactional impacts as they happen. And another way we can manage consolidations is through Sage Intacct's flexible multi-book general ledger. Now I'm going to switch into another demo environment to show you how this feature works. So in this demo environment, we have a handful of different entities for restaurant operations and different businesses that are part of this organization. And I'm in the top level right here looking at a top level dashboard, and I have a consolidated balance sheet. Now I'm going to open up this balance sheet so we can see it a little better. And this is an example of how Sage Intacct can help manage your consolidations and your consolidated financials. And we have each of the entities here in columns, and then the combined. So with our shared chart of accounts, we get that continuous consolidation and roll up that I just mentioned into our combined totals here in this column. But if we need to take this one level further and actually look at how we might need to eliminate intercompany balances or adjust for our consolidation, I can create what Intacct calls an eliminations book and actually post entries to record my eliminations and then get to a true consolidation. And I can do this without any, additional modules or, external tools. This is just part of the configuration of the system where I can go in here to my custom book, into my eliminations book, and take a look at my elimination entries here that I've created. So all of this ability to manage these types of eliminations and consolidations you can do very easily. And this will, quite frankly, meet the needs of most restaurant groups that are out there. But if your organization, is either a little bit larger or if you have more complex ownership structures, minority interest ownership, things like that, or if you might have global subsidiaries that require multi-currency support, Sage Intacct does offer a sophisticated consolidations module that automates all of those complex eliminations, those entries, elimination entries I just showed you, does all the currency conversions for you and saves hours and hours, of time during your close. And more importantly, helps you manage your consolidated financials right inside of Sage Intacct. Next area of flexibility I want to show you is around how we manage user access and user permissions. And so in Sage Intacct, we're able to restrict what users can see and do in a couple of different ways. First of all, we can control at the user level which entity a user can see. So I can assign this user just to one or more entities, or I can assign a user to one or more stores. So by having this ability to restrict users at the user level, it makes it very easy to administer and ensure that users can see only what you need them to see. In addition to that, we also have permissions roles, where users are then assigned out a specific permissions role based on their role in your organization and what information you need them to be able to see and do in the system. So for example, your operations team here will have a role that is probably view only and limited to just certain areas within the system. On the other hand, your controller or your staff accountants might have a much more robust permission that opens up access into all of the different accounting areas of the system here. Assigning users to roles couldn't be easier. From the user here, we just simply edit the user and assign them a role based on their responsibilities. Finally, I want to talk about how we manage setting up new stores and managing store information in Sage Intacct. This is another really important topic around flexibility that makes managing your reporting much, much easier than many other systems. So in Sage Intacct, we talked about the benefits of the shared chart of accounts. And then with our stores, we actually use Sage Intacct's dimensions to manage our store information. And the precise manner that we do that will depend on, your company and your company's reporting requirements. In this demo environment, we're using the department dimension for our stores. And when I click into this dimension record, I've got, my store name, and then I've got a whole bunch of other information that I'm tracking here. So let's just walk through very quickly, how do we add a new store in Sage Intacct? So you're getting ready to open store number 10, and all I have to do is create a new department, give it an ID, which you set these IDs. It's typically your store number, or maybe you have an internal ID reference. And from here, this is actually really all I need to enter to set up this store. But you'll notice that we have a bunch of different custom fields. So we're actually able to create custom fields that allows you to capture more information about your stores. So, and this is all information that helps drive your reporting. So um, who is the district manager down here under DM? Um, this, of course, being a demo, these are just random numbers, but you could have somebody's name here, Mary's stores, Joe's stores, whatever that might be, however you organize your districts. Your director of operations for the larger operators that have multiple layers, perhaps districts roll up into regions, roll up into brands, however that is defined. We can assign who these managers are right on the store, and then we can add other information that helps with automation. So um, the royalty rate that this store pays um, can help drive an automation to accrue your royalty expenses, for example. So there's a lot of things that we can do here that help drive your reporting. But I'm going to go ahead and save this store. And this is literally all I have to do here. So now if I'm going to go into, say, accounts payable and start coding bills to our friends at A&A Plumbing, when I go down into my coding here, I've got my store already available. So this is the only setup that I have to do for me to actually start transacting and entering accounting entries for this store. And then finally, when I go back to my dashboards here, my store dashboard, for example, the filters, because these dashboards, we can filter by Intacct's dimension. Store 10 is now available as an option here. So I don't even have to go in and update any of my reporting for this new store. So tremendous flexibility to organize your stores, to group your stores. So we've got 3 different districts. But as your alignments change, as you have changes in your district manager teams, the flexibility is very, very easily being able to reassign stores to different DMs to change your alignments. We can manage that very effectively in Sage Intacct without impacting really your entity level financials or anything that you might see from a top level perspective. Great. So just a quick recap of what we've gone through today. We've talked about, and I've shown you how Sage Intacct can provide visibility across your entire organization through the dashboards, through real-time information coming through the system, and driving greater visibility and alignment between accounting and operations. We've talked about the automations and efficiencies, the day-to-day use of Sage Intacct and the time savings that can come through things like AP bill automation and automated clearing of bank activity and matching in your bank reconciliations. And then we discussed the flexibility and how easy it is to manage multiple entities, to manage new store openings, managing user permissions and assignments. So hopefully this has helped give you an introduction into some of the main benefits of how Sage Intacct can really help you transform your organization into that modern, future-ready finance team. And with that, if you'd like to learn more about Sage Intacct from Tablespoon, please get in touch. We also have a special offer exclusively for Wendy's franchisees, and there is more information about this on our website, or of course, you're welcome to contact us by phone or email. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend our webinar today.